Well, hello everyone. My name is Kim Ocean, and I'll let people hop on. But I'm just going to start because I know a lot of people are going to be watching the replay, and I'll introduce myself. So again, my name is Kim Ocean, and I'm a multi-passionate person. I'll say I'm a DJ. I'm a motivational speaker. I'm a coach. I'm also a speech pathologist by day. It's really tricky to say. And also, what else? And a coach. Yeah, I think I said that. Yeah, so I'm an intuitive spiritual coach, and I help people along their awakening journeys. I also have a podcast called Awakening 101 that I do with my dear friend and sister Annie Grace, and that's available on Spotify. Check it out. It's really awesome. And we started in February, and I just absolutely love it. We've had some amazing people on, and it's all about what I'm passionate about, and that's helping people along their spiritual awakening path and, kind of debunking spirituality a bit. I come from a post-Christian background. So I grew up in a really kind of strict Christian household, and I love my parents, and it was also super challenging. And especially for me, I've always been a free spirit, and my soul always had a connection to the divine, to God. But then I felt, from the earliest age that like it was kind of confined in the box of church and religion. And if that's your path, I commend you. And I think there are so many paths to God and to your own divinity. So yeah, it's Jesus was showing the way. He said, "You are all gods, and I am just an example." And so I know the Bible pretty well. I went to even Bible college. Yeah, every single Sunday we were in those pews, and my favorite part was the worship, the singing, and that's when I had these incredible experiences where I would be like almost shaking and crying and like have these overwhelming, what I call like Holy Spirit experiences, where I just felt the love of the divine like meet me in a very real way. And I had quite a few of those growing up, not all the time, but a few of those encounters where I felt like the presence of God, and it was unshakable, and no one could take away what I experienced there. And it felt like pure love. It felt like pure, divine, unconditional love. And yet again, I was torn. I felt like I saw quite a bit of judgment in the church and some various churches I was in, and was just confused as to why, we were supposed to be the only way, like to the only path to God, that Jesus is the only path to God. And that just never felt right to me. That like it was that people were excluded, and that if even like a baby or a child like had one impure thought that they were going to hell, it just never made sense to me in my heart. So yeah, and I read the Bible cover to cover to try and figure it out many times, because again, those experiences that I had of unconditional love just didn't compute. They didn't add up. So also, kind of growing up, like I said, in a strict household, like if I ever wanted to go on a sleepover, the answer was always no. And I was kind of under lock and key in some kinds of ways. And I had a life that was prescribed for me. And I followed that on the front end. I followed the life that was prescribed for me. And I got pretty much straight A's, a couple of B's, and was on swim team, and did well in school, and also was on like various things to get me on the path to college and live the life that was prescribed for me, that made others happy. But the life that I wanted to live was what I call my double life. And like from an early age, I was sneaking out my window, and I was hallmarked by music and partying from from a young age. And so it's like, fine, if you won't like say yes to the things that I want to do, I'm going to do them anyway. So I would, do it behind my parents' back and live this double life. And a couple of stories I'll share. So yeah, my brother and I would like sneak out at the same time and we'd like give each other a mutual nod of understanding, and then we'd be on our way wherever we were going that night. And I remember one day, oh my gosh, I was with my friends, and who a lot of them went to church with me, and we were um, drinking and partying. We were probably like 17 or so, and I was teaching Sunday school the next day. So I got to Sunday school, and I was so hungover. I was really unwell, and I taught Sunday school to like with a bunch of 5-year-olds. It was like me, and I was actually grateful like my teacher aide wasn't there that day because I just looked unwell as well. So I put on a VeggieTales movie and sat in the back of the class and was just like, you guys aren't, even if you're not paying attention or going wild, like I don't care. And I left and walked to my car, and at the end I stayed for the whole thing, and then I got to my car and I threw up on my steering wheel. And I had to like drive home, and I was so scared that my parents were going to find out. So I like stopped at a gas station and cleaned it all up, and was just like, what am I doing with myself? um and yeah, I'd say like in my heart it was like out of desperation to escape the cages of my own making. So I rebelled and kind of did what I had to do at the same time. Like I don't carry any guilt for that. It was like trying to find who I was and trying to live like outside of the cages that were prescribed for me and that I also adopted in order to feel safe and to feel loved. I think because I felt like if I did anything wrong, like love would not be there. So I tried my best to do everything right. And I know a lot of people can relate to that. So I settled for like affirmation, like the little bits of, good job and praise I would get for doing what was expected of me. I like settled for that instead of unconditional love. And so that kind of created this trajectory for my life of seeking approval and people pleasing. And I also had like back-to-back relationships, romantic relationships, since I was age 12. Can you believe that? 12. I was in middle school. And I remember my first boyfriend, and it was like partly, I guess, curiosity, and like I started getting, boobs in middle school. Everybody seemed to notice. And it was to like, I uncovered like it was to validate my own self-worth. So I used my cuteness and my body to get love, and I was settling for morsels of affirmation in replace for real love, but I don't think I knew any better. And most of my relationships were nice enough guys, and each relationship was good enough. And I also dated safe as well. I got my heart broken when I was 13. I was dating one of my brother's best friends, and he was 3 years older. We had kind of a secret relationship, and he broke my heart when I was like 13, and I just remember that pain. Do you remember like being in love when you're super young and like the heartbreak, man? Your emotions are just so intense, so intense. And I was so heartbroken and got really into emo punk music and just kind of screamed my heart out. And found medicine in music that way. But so therefore I kind of made a vow there that I would kind of try and never get my heart broken again. So I dated safe for almost 20 years, and yeah, and then eventually got my heart broken again, and through another relationship and simultaneously got my dream job working at Stanford, and I was creating a program for them with my specialty. I'm a speech pathologist by day, and I also have a specialty in hearing loss. And I've worked on surgical teams with cochlear implants I did that in the hospitals for 7 years before starting my own company. And so they gave me a job. They offered me a job at Stanford, and so I left and I went up there, and I left San Diego, I should say, and left the relationship that I was in, and just felt I went up there and needed to try this. And I was single, living in a studio apartment, and trying to create this program, and got this dream job with this dream salary, and thought that should make me happy, and yet I still felt empty. And I was, again, heartbroken and lonely and trying to figure myself out. And so I, was like, I remember like drinking alone at like the local bar, and like was trying to make friends. I had like one friend in the area, and she ended up moving back, or she moved down to San Diego like a month after I moved up from San Diego. And I was like, come on, man. And so I was trying to make friends, and I ended up getting a dog who is freaking adorable. Roxy, you want to say hi? Come here, come say hi. Come here, babies. Oh, this is her. This is baby Roxy. She's 4 years old now. So this was 4 years ago in 2018. I love you. Yes. And okay, you can go back in your cave. Oh, there you go. Oh, careful. So in that time I got Roxy. It was like a couple months later. It was fall of 2018, around like October, November this time. And I got sick. I got something that like was, had this awful cough that seemed to linger forever. And being a speech pathologist in the hospital, I couldn't go back to work even long after I wasn't contagious anymore. And so I had to stay home. And then eventually I was like starting to lose my mind a bit. I was never one that could sit still. Oh my gosh, if you told me to meditate, I would say you're crazy. And I always had music on. I always had to drown out my mind. My mind was very overactive and was a chronic overthinker, like crazy anxiety, and had actually like a couple of panic attacks, got diagnosed with panic disorder, also had been in therapy for 10 years, and due to a lot of trauma in my childhood. And I still had this crazy anxiety, so being alone with my thoughts in a quiet room was just torture. So I would just always try and drown out my mind, and I just hated the idea of being alone. And I lived in a studio apartment, so hence the dog. Then again, I got sick, and I had done yoga quite a bit in the past, like for exercise. And I kind of like felt the nudge to check out a yoga class. So found this studio not too far away and started going. And then they had extended shavasana, so like a 30 minute like intentional built-in kind of meditation at the end of class. And I was like, oh no, that's a long time. But I stayed with it, and I did the class and laid in the meditation. And the very first day I was there, I like audibly heard, this is part of your divine training. And I felt that same unconditional love like wash over my body that I had felt from my childhood, like in church. And I heard, this is part of your divine training, come back tomorrow. And I was like, what the heck? And I should also mention I had another divine encounter like that when I was 19. So this is almost 10 years later. And I was in Barbados. This is a cool story, so we have time. I'll share it with you. So I was in Barbados, and this was one of the times where I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure God is real. And so I was in Barbados on a mission trip. This was after the Haiti earthquake, a year after I felt compelled to go help. And so I was on a 6-month trip with this organization called Youth with a Mission, YWAM. And it was like a justice focused one. And so our base was in Barbados, and we went to Haiti for 3 months and did some actual real work, which was really amazing. And to be a part of that, it was just completely life-changing. And the training that we got was really phenomenal. I would say definitely more like spiritually Christian or spiritual Christian, in that it was really taught us how to listen to our intuition, how to actually meditate. And they would be like, okay, go take a journal, go into the jungle or wherever, find a quiet spot and listen. Just listen and see what you get. And they would ask us like, okay, what city should we go next? Or how much, money should we donate to this thing? Or, what should we do as a team? And then we would all go separately and take our journals and meditate and see what answers we got. And we would usually all get pretty much the same answer. So there was a lot of things like that were really cool, just to kind of show how connected we all were and that we were actually receiving real guidance. So that's a little bit of context. One night I'm laying in my bed, and I hear audibly, "Kim, wake up." And I was like, what? I was like, okay, I must be still asleep, must be still dreaming. And I kind of look around, and it's pitch black, and my roommate's asleep, and there's no one around, but it felt like somebody had whispered in my ear. And so I go back to sleep, and then it happens again. And the second time I'm look around, I'm like, okay, no one's there. I'm like, okay, is this God? There's a story in the Bible that's really similar, but this guy hears his name called 3 times, and then he gets a message from God. So I was like, okay, God, and no response. And I waited 5 minutes awake, listening, and didn't hear anything. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go back to sleep. So I go back to sleep again. And then what feels like 10 minutes later, it happens again. And you're like, Kim, wake up. And I was like, okay, all right, God. And so I put on my rain boots and trudged through the jungle a bit to this gazebo that overlooked the ocean. And I'm sitting out there, it's pitch black. It feels like the middle of the night. And I'm sitting there, I'm awake, I'm listening, I'm quiet, and I'm not hearing anything. It feels like 10 minutes passes by, and I'm like, okay, God, that was you. This is, it's been real, but I'm gonna go back to bed if you don't have anything to say, being all sassy. And I literally stand up to go back to bed, and I turn around and walk back, and I hear audibly, turn around, don't miss it. And I turn around, and just as I do, it was straight up pitch black, and then all of a sudden there's liquid gold appears on the horizon, and it's the sunrise, and rays of light, golden light, just start shooting out. It's like nothing I've ever seen to this day. It was so beautiful. And I feel again this just pouring down of energy and divine unconditional love over me. And I hear audibly in my ear, in my heart, in my ear, you are my beloved child. You have never sinned. You are precious and divine and perfect as you are. And I love you so much. And it was just all of this was just kind of said to me. It was a love affirmations bath. And I just started crying, and I just felt the energy, and it was just so healing and transformative, and was different than anything I'd ever experienced, and from everything I'd ever heard in church even. It was just so pure and like free of judgment, I think, which is so beautiful and powerful for me. So then, another thing I should mention, right before that too, I had a relationship with a girl for the first time, and I got a little bit disowned by my family. Yeah. And then I just was like really wrestling with the guilt of that, and like trying to like reconcile my relationship with God and that, like, can I be gay and Christian and all those things and big questions, and ended up like breaking up with her because I wasn't actually in love with her, I don't think, and then left to go on that trip to kind of get away. And but my shame still followed me, so that was a really healing message for me to know, like, clearly you have never sinned. And then fast forward back to the yoga studio. So we're in the yoga studio, and I hear, this is part of your divine training. Come back tomorrow. And this is, again, 10 years later that I kind of heard and felt the same voice and the same thing. So I listen. I come back the next day, and I go to the same class, and I'm in Shavasana again, and I'm listening, and I hear, what did I hear? I think I just heard again, like, come back tomorrow, because it was the third day. So I come back the next day again, and kind of had a really similar experience. So I'm laying there in Shavasana, and my mind is going a little bit, my thoughts are going, and then all of a sudden I feel that divine unconditional love wash over me again, and the same like affirmations bath of like, you are my precious child, you're my precious daughter, you have never sinned, you are divine and perfect as you are, you have never been judged, and you are so loved. And in fact, you have no idea who you are. You are the motherfucking queen of oceans, is what I heard. And it was clear as day. I and will never ever forget that experience. And for me, what connected the dots was knowing that even though I had walked away from like Christianity as I knew it, and kind of walked away from the church, I like, God is beyond that. God is outside of that. And I can find God in a yoga class, which was telling to me that there's more than one path to God, that we all have access, that there's no like priest intermediary, like we have direct access, and it's within us. And God is in our hearts. And so a lot of people have trouble with the word God for the same reasons I did, but I've kind of come back around to it. I also like saying the universe, and it's one of the things I love to talk about on my podcast, and love to ask people, what their concept of God is, and what they refer to it as, because some people it's just like love energy, or the all that is, source, the creative energy of the universe, all those things. Like quantum physics even has words for God like that. And pure divine consciousness, all those things. We're all talking about the same stuff, and I think all religions kind of grasp at what that truth is. They all are trying to point towards it, but then it's like man got in the way, is the way that I see it, and we try and like define it too much, and the stories are somewhat designed for control. At least I know that to be true in Christianity. I actually know about this meeting called the Council of Nicaea that happened during Constantinople's rule, where there was a council of men who decided on what books were going to be in the canonical Bible that we have today. And so they voted on which books were going to be in, which books were going to be out. And they also, during that council, changed the word homosexual to change the word pedophile and pedophilia to homosexual and homosexuality. So a little side note for you. The actual, I think, true like homosexuality is only referenced once in the Bible, and it's not listed as like a sin, which is a thing. So that's something to be aware of, and just to know that there's, nothing like inherently wrong with Christianity. It's only when people are excluded and judged that I have any issue with it. Bye, darling. I love you. Happy fall, everyone, by the way. Check out this mug. I love it. I've got a golden milk latte in here with oat milk. It's so good. And that was my beloved fiance who just left. We just got engaged in May, and after knowing each other for 5 months. So I'll get there. Back to the story. Okay, so where was I? So we had relationships back to back all this time. We had severe anxiety. We were looking for love in all the wrong places. And that day in the yoga studio, I would call the catalyst of my spiritual awakening. Then after that day, or at the end of the class that day, I was just like crying. People are having a normal yoga class, and I'm having a serious divine encounter that day. And I asked my teacher, like, if she recommended any books. I told her what happened, and she recommended The Power of Now. I think I said I wanted to learn how to meditate. And so she recommended The Power of Now, which is still one of the books I recommend a lot. Some people find it really dense to read, and I'll admit it is, especially for my ADD, but I was able to read it. I just kind of read every page pretty much twice. But his new one, called A New Earth, is a little bit easier to read. I also highly recommend, do I have it over here? It's called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. Also a really incredible book, kind of summarizes a lot of concepts that are in this book, but in a little bit more digestible way. And then it goes into like how to keep your heart open and that, or how to use life to open your heart. And it's really beautiful, really transformative book. Highly recommend both. So The Power of Now, A New Earth, also by Eckhart Tolle, and then what's it called? The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. My 3 books I recommend the most if you have not read them yet. So then I read The Power of Now. I read it, 1 page at a time, read each page twice over, and it really taught me how to meditate to the point where I like found the universe within. I found God within, like on my own accord, and I found space in between my anxious mind, and I realized that my anxious mind, my monkey mind, my ego, all those names that we have for it is not my identity. That in fact, I am the motherfucking queen of oceans and so much more, that I'm so beyond Kim in this body. And that really experiential, people can tell you that, but until you experience it, it doesn't really fully become real. And so I started to experience that. I started to experience the space behind my thoughts and become the watcher of my thoughts and the observer of my life. And it was crazy. The first 3 months, it felt like I was on mushrooms, to be honest. I was like walking around, talking to the trees, and just like on this spiritual high, literally. Like I was in my heart. I was alive for the first time, it felt like. And I just embraced the hell out of life. And oh my gosh, I cherished that time. And my puppy was just a little baby, and just life was freaking beautiful. And then things started to get weird. So let's talk about a spiritual awakening journey. Have you ever seen this symbol? It's called an unalome. Let me see. Can I share my screen? Oh, I can. Okay, let me pull one up really quick. Impromptu. Unalome. Okay. So it's a symbol of a spiritual awakening. It's one of the tattoos that I want to get, so I can just show you my arm and explain what I'm talking about. Okay. Here are some examples. Shoot. Okay, let me share my screen. Here we go. So basically, here we go. This is a good one. All right, so this one with the lotus here, there's all some really pretty designs. We'll have to decide what I end up getting. But here's where you start. So the symbol for a lotus is also a symbol for a spiritual awakening, because a lotus starts as a seed in the like muck in the mire in the mud, in like these mangrove swamps is where its typical natural home is. And then it has to work its way through the mud and then like through these gnarly mangroves and work its way, to the surface and through the darkness and the like muddy water, and then finally blooms in this beautiful, amazing flower. But it's a whole journey to get there. And that's what a spiritual awakening is like. So you start here as your seed, and then you kind of go around and you start to go up, and that's like that spiritual high I was on. I was like, wow, this is amazing. I feel alive for the first time. And then you kind of like slip back a little bit, and then you go up again, and then you slip back a little bit. And along the path too, there's what's called, for most people experience it, it's a dark night of the soul. And for me, that felt like I was losing my mind. I started to like really, again, pay attention to my thoughts and like the kind of almost fire hydrant that was going on in there. And for me, that was a little bit unsettling, because not only would I hear what sounded like my ego and my thoughts, I would like hear all kinds of voices and I would hear accents and like people felt like random people talking to me in my head, and I'm like, do I need to be in a loony bin? Like, what the heck is going on? And it just felt like almost like a radio dial. Like I was just tuning in to all of these different frequencies and all this different chatter. And I literally felt like I was losing my mind, and like I was just still trying to operate in human society. And I had this prestigious job. I was, designing and leading a program, and all of this was happening simultaneously. It was a little chaotic. And I remember one time I went to a concert with some friends and like smoked weed and had a little bit of alcohol and maybe did something else, probably, I think maybe even just that. And I like had this out of body experience, and I was also just like feeling all of this energy around me. Like that was really, some of it was dark and some of it was chaotic, and it was all very confusing, and I like almost didn't know who I was anymore. And I was like watching myself from above, like literally having this out of body experience, and I was a little terrified. And like, it was so freaking intense. And for a lot of my life during that period, I felt like I was watching my life like an avatar, like a video game. And that was really peculiar. And then eventually, like I started getting like consuming a ton of books. I started making like yoga, meditation, like a daily part of my day and my routine, and just noticed that I would like feel better if I like did yoga and meditated in the morning, and started working with some more spiritual mentors and teachers who helped me kind of create spiritual boundaries. I think that's something that's really important. And I'll get into, I'm writing it down because that's something that I want to touch on in my Instagram and stuff. So anyway, really quick about this unalome, and then I'll take it back, but I'll come back to spiritual boundaries. So you go up and then you kind of loop back again. You feel like you're falling into old patterns, but truly you're still up leveling. So that's something that's important to notice, is that you may feel like you're falling into old patterns, and you may be, but it's like to learn a different layer of the lesson, to like go through it and get to another level of it. It's like peeling the layers of the onion, right? So you're not actually going, 2 steps back. It's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. No, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's more like that. It's like, I see it almost like a stock market thing too. A good stock that's going up. Okay, but it has little dips, but it's going up the whole time. So similar to this, and then all of a sudden things get easier, and you get lighter and lighter and lighter, and then you have enlightenment. And enlightenment doesn't mean, like, I would say that I'm pretty up here somewhere, but it doesn't mean that, life is perfect. It just means that you have, I think, a baseline peace or a baseline vibration that's much higher than it used to be, and that, like, I operate from a place now that it feels really magical, that my life is in a constant state of like flow and magic and receiving, and my dreams are coming true left and right. And like, I still have, tough days, but it's nothing like what it used to be. Like, my mind is at peace, and I can find space really easily. I don't struggle with anxiety anymore. Like, if I like have a couple drinks, like the next day I will notice some anxiety. So that's something I'm really mindful of. But it's pretty amazing to be on the other side of that. So yeah, I believe that enlightenment, can happen. Can happen to anyone. It can happen on Earth, and it's, my one of my major heart callings is to help people along their spiritual awakening path, because they all look different. And most often the common thread is that people feel like they're losing their minds, and it looks like a mental health crisis. And sometimes, I'm not saying that those aren't real. Those are super real, but sometimes it's coinciding with the spiritual awakening. And it's important to have, I think, someone who's been through it, and like the proper support, and like a loving container, rather than, being in like a mental hospital, for example. So that's a huge, a huge calling for me. And it's something that we say a lot in the podcast. Like, if you hear voices, you're not crazy. So just something to know. And it's something that I'm really passionate about. And okay, let's get back to spiritual boundaries really quick. I think that's important. So the word empath, okay, is really common. It's really thrown around a lot, isn't it? And I would say, especially people, so my definition of empath is especially people who are super open and can sense other people's energies fairly easily. And often an empath, I believe, is formed in childhood. It's usually, I think, a nurture aspect where, yes, there's like star seeds, and we come on Earth with these missions, and we usually have psychic abilities, but I believe everybody's born psychic, and that, yeah, maybe we all have like different genetics, and some people have more like genetic trauma as well, or difficulty accessing those things. But I think a lot of it is unlearning through society and parental programming. We like unlearn how to be psychic and intuitive, and even empathic. And so I think an empath is the ability to sense other people's energies. And often what I've found is that people who are highly empathic often had a traumatic childhood, usually with a volatile family member, who they would have to kind of walk on eggshells sometimes. And therefore we have these like energetic kind of tentacles that go out and kind of feel the room, sense people's energies, to know, like, am I safe? Am I safe today? What's their mood? Am I going to be okay? I know that was certainly the case for me. Like, I had a volatile parent who, it really mattered to know what mood they were in. So I would put out those tentacles and sense the vibe of the house, of him and of the room, to know, if it was a day where we just needed to avoid it and stay safe. So I think that's kind of a common experience with people who are empathic, that it's like a learned thing as well. So one thing that we often don't realize is that those tentacles, or like those feelers that we have out for our environment and for other people, they may not need to always be there. So sometimes we kind of keep it open. We keep our energy fields open and keep like our feelers out 24/7 when we are not even aware of it. So it's like a default mode. So for example, like as I was starting to have my spiritual awakening and I was like observing everything and feeling everything, and I felt really open, I was like feeling everybody's energies, like subconsciously. I didn't realize I was doing it, but I was like tuning into everybody else. And so it took me some time to realize, through, thankfully for my mentors who showed me how to kind of seal my energy field and create a golden bubble of light. And I would actually do that every day before I would go into the hospital, once I learned how to do that. And whew, let me tell you, I was so much more peaceful. Oh my gosh. It was still rough to work at the hospital after my spiritual awakening, just because I felt like a workhorse, and I had a room with no windows and screaming children all day, all those things. So it was something that I learned how to protect myself. And now I say kind of an intention of like, I ask for my angels to surround me in light, and I say only pure love in and pure love out. And I picture this orb around me. And then as far as like my tentacles, I took a psychic development course, which was really incredible. It's called the Intuitive Intensive. Highly recommend it. And that was in 2020. And we learned about like ethics, psychic ethics and intuitive ethics. And so it's like basically we don't read anyone without their permission. And, that's like something that we're not all taught. And so we say we're empaths on default, but often we're like reading someone else's field without their permission and even without us knowing. So I say, for me, it's something that it's important that I've learned how to only like put those feelers out when I have permission, or when I pretty much have explicit permission, or when it's necessary. But I would never like read anybody without their permission. Only what, like, as my mentor said, it's like only what they're broadcasting. People have like, let's say you walk past somebody on the street, they have like a spiritual Facebook page, like their public information, and then there's private information that you can only access with permission, right? Okay, so that's spiritual boundaries. I think that's something that's important. It's 11:44. All right, two more things I want to share before we hop off. I think we can keep this under an hour. So one of them is purpose. Purpose is something that I am really passionate about as well, and intuition development. But let's talk about purpose. So purpose to me is something, it's more about being. And like I explained in the beginning, I'm a multi-passionate person. And purpose to me is more about your being again. So my purpose, I believe, on earth is to be a divine channel of love, and to be loved, to help other people get free. And so that's kind of broad, right? But I think that's who I'm being. So no matter what I'm doing, that's my being is my purpose, to be a channel of love and help other people get free. So that could take so many different forms. I could do that when I'm DJing. I can do that when I'm walking down the street. It's not about what I do. So I don't believe that everybody has like one thing that they're meant to do. Some people are really compelled to create in an artistic way, and I think that is phenomenal. I think that's like a high calling and a path. But I think that's also their choice in a like profound way. Like that's their soul's choice and their human choice as well. I think it's a co-creation. Like, and the universe is like, perfect, amazing. We're so happy to like channel art through you because you are open and you can do this. And it's a way of self-expression and often a way of emotional release. Like the universe is like, hell yeah, have at it. We'll give you all the inspiration because you are an open channel for this and you are helping other people through it. And so I think service to others is a thing that a lot of us come into this planet with, is the intention to be of service to others. And so what I see again, purpose is like a tree, okay? So you are the tree. Your purpose is to be here on earth being you, discovering who you are, becoming your most authentic self. And for me, I want to be my most authentic and my highest self merged into one in this physical body. And so my purpose is to be me. And I see these branches that I'm growing, my branches of being a coach, of being a DJ, of being a speech pathologist, of being a podcast host, a writer, a speaker, and all of these, other little things, being a world traveler. All of these things are my branches. And some of them I grow wider and fatter and spend more time on. Some of them are more skinny, and it can grow and change through phases of my life. And some of them twist and grow longer and wider and all those things. But I think that is our choice. I was coaching somebody yesterday, and one of the things that came through, he was really wanting like a direction. Like he's feeling in this transition phase of his life, and he's wanting like God, source, universe to tell him what he's supposed to do with the rest of his years on this planet. And recently retired. And guess what? Do you think God, source, universe was like, yeah, you need to be a writer? For some people, they might get messages like that, but for him, I think what was most empowering in the message that came through was this beautiful visual of him getting on a ship with his whole guidance team on that ship. And he walks on and they guide him to the captain's seat. And they say, "Where to, Captain?" It was so beautiful. Because I think what they were trying to demonstrate to him was, or what I feel, is that he has choice. He is empowered. Like they want to empower him. You get to decide. And so one of the exercises we did was write down a list of all of the things that sound fun, exciting, and interesting to him. And, things that he's enjoyed in the past. And so he made this list, this long list, and then I had him star some things that he could try this week. And I think excitement is an indicator of our intuition. Excitement is something that guides us, that can guide us. And sometimes even fear. I was talking about that yesterday with my mentor, that even fear can be our guide, because I was terrified to jump into my coaching program. It was a big investment, and I'm almost done now. It's an 8-month program, and I have got like a month left. And I was so afraid of the financial investment and the time commitment, and it like felt super scary. But I knew that my like up leveling was on the other side of that fear, and that I could hold both the knowing that it was meant for me, that was something that I felt really called to do, and also the fear at the same time, and push past that fear to take that leap of faith. And the universe has completely caught me and held me, and I have been so up leveled and supported as a result of taking this program, and I do not regret it for a second. And I know that it was what my soul was calling me to do. So the excitement and the knowing, I think, are really important things to follow. But if you don't have the knowing yet, follow the excitement, follow the fun, follow the path of least resistance. I go to music festivals a lot. It's really easy to lose your friends if you've ever been to one. And, you go to the bathroom and you're trying to find your friends in the sea of people. So one of my mantras there, two mantras that I highly recommend you take with you if you ever go to a music festival. One, the path of least resistance will lead me right to my friends. And it does every time. And the universe just like guides me this way, and the crowd just magically parts, and I go that way. And then all of a sudden I end up back at my friends. Works every time. It's amazing. Second mantra I take to music festivals is I always have a clean and stocked restroom whenever I need one. And it works. I was just at Electric Forest this last fall in Michigan. And one, I'll say, people of Michigan are kind humans. Oh my goodness, they are so kind. Those Midwesterners, bless their hearts. And I kept like telling people about it because I would open a porta potty and it would be like clean, nice, clean seats, like stocked with toilet paper. It was like someone just used this, like it looks pristine. And apparently not everybody had the same experience that I did. Even late at night, I would like have the same experience. It was pretty mind-blowing. I thought it was just the Michiganders, the people in Michigan that were just being super nice, but partially I think it was also my affirmation. So I highly recommend that you adopt that. I say that as a general rule for my life. I always have a clean and stocked restroom whenever I need one, and it's pretty much true. And I'll take the credits. There's been like 1 or 2 times over the last year where it's not been so clean. And I was like, okay, yeah, maybe my vibration was off as I was trying to manifest that. And I take the responsibility for that too with all my manifestations. I love Abraham Hicks, who said like, when she creates something amazing, yeah, I created that. Like, yeah. And then when something not so great happens, yeah, I did that too. So I think there's this segueing into manifestation and how to, there's radical responsibility for your life, where if you recognize your power as a divine creator, as a divine being in this human vessel for a learning experience here on earth at the greatest school in the universe, this earth school, this amazing, possibly simulation hologram that we're in, at least a very realistic dream. Excuse me, wrong pipe. Do you ever have a dream that's so vivid, you wake up and you're like, was that real? Sometimes I have dreams that are like, this whole other world is created, every single detail, like so detailed. And it blows my mind. And that was just a dream. And like that helps me believe in the fact that maybe this universe is also just a dream, and that you're the divine creator, that you are the operator of this video game that you've created for yourself, and that you can change things in an instant. And for me, I don't know when I first heard about manifestation, but it was around my spiritual awakening in 2018. I watched The Secret, I heard about it, I started taking courses and learning everything I could, and following coaches and teachers on social media. And it just was something that sounded really cool, but I was like, but how? How does it work? How do you do it? How? And it's something now that trying to break it down into the how, here's what I'll say. So for the how to manifest, it's about setting it and forgetting it. If you think about it, I think Joe Dispenza says we have somewhere around 100,000 thoughts a day, if I'm correct. And how is the universe, if you have 100,000 thoughts a day, and some of them are like, I like this, I don't like that, oh, that was nasty, good, cool, whatever those little thoughts are, how is the universe supposed to grasp on to like what you actually really want? So I believe step 1 is decide what it is that you want. And step 2 is make it known. So make it known somehow. Write it down, say it out loud, tell a friend, make a vision board, make it known so that the universe has very clear, um, not too specific, but specific enough of what it is that you want. When I was trying to manifest this apartment, I wrote a tall order. I was pretty confident in my manifesting abilities, and I said, I want to live walking distance from the beach, like a short walk. I think I said I want to hear the ocean. And I want a small yard for Roxy, and I want 2 parking spots, Tesla charging, and a washer dryer. And under our budget, of course. So, tall order. We looked at a bunch of places in Pacific Beach, San Diego, and everything felt like we were settling a little bit. Everything felt like good enough. And then we were getting down to the crunch time of like when we actually really needed to move. It was like the Monday and we had to move by Friday. We didn't have a place to live yet. And we even applied to this one place that was, again, good enough. It had a garage, did not have Tesla charging. It was very outdated, but it had some charm. It was like 2 blocks from the water, and it was in Pacific Beach. And we're like, it'll work. It'll do. Let's apply. So we applied and ended up not working because we didn't get our cat's emotional support documents in time. So they denied us. And so the guy that we were working with, who we really liked, gives us a call, and he goes, "Okay, you guys, we have good news, bad news. Bad news, you did not get the apartment. They denied you because of the documents. Good news, I just had 2 places open up in Mission Beach. Are you free right now to come see them?" And we were literally looking at another apartment just a little bit out of desperation. Try not to get desperate. Desperate energy is chasing, it's lack, it doesn't help your manifestation. Okay, try not to get desperate. Then, so we're like, yes, we will come with you right now. So at first I had a tiny bit of resistance to moving to Mission Beach. We drive down there, we see the places, we see the first one, it's a little bit smaller. Then we see the second one. It's this upstairs unit, 4 houses down from the ocean, and like no street in between, like just a short little walk. And we can technically see a sliver of the ocean from our balcony. We have this like enclosed patio balcony that has turf on it. It looks like a little yard. It's perfect for Roxy. It has a little gate, like it's enclosed. Our kitty loves it, loves to be outside, and it's so perfect. We have a 2-car garage underneath us. We have no shared walls with anybody else. It feels like a little house, and it's a 1-bedroom, but a fairly big one, and we are so happy. It's amazing. We have a washer dryer. There was possibility of Tesla charging. Justin got asked if he could install one with his electrician, and our landlord offered to split it with him. And we have a washer dryer, literally everything that I asked for, and it was brought to us. He was like, I want to offer it to you. Don't want to put it on Zillow or online or anything. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is a yes. It's a full body yes. When I walked in and saw everything, and I was like, what do we have to do? What do we have to do? How do we get this apartment? And he's like, it's already yours. It's already yours. You already applied. It's the same like network. And I was like, oh my gosh, are you for real? And I gave him the biggest hug. I was like, can I hug you? And it's ours. And it just goes to show you like it's okay to be specific. But you have to have radical faith to, back it up. And you can't get desperate. We were so close to getting desperate. But I knew that the universe was going to come through for us, and it sure did. So I think it's, what did I say? It's figuring out what you want, getting specific and making it known. 3 is to trust and be patient. 4 is to follow the like nudges, winks, nudges, and signs. And if you get any action steps, or kind of do what you can with what you have to make your dreams come true, like take the steps that you think will get you towards the thing that you're asking for. And then 5 is be patient. It's divine perfect timing. So you have to surrender the how and the when in manifestation. Some people put time limits on things, I think, when they manifest. For me, I feel better about just trusting divine perfect timing. But let me know if you have a different way. So release the why and even surrender expectations of the outcome. One of the things that when I first learned about manifestation, I was like, man, like it feels difficult to hope for something so high and then like to not receive it. And like you're getting your expectations let down. You're getting your hopes up. And I think that's something that I've really learned to just surrender the expectations of the outcome and trust divine perfect timing, because maybe you asked for the thing and either it wasn't time yet, like you, like what's his face says, you stepped off of Faith Street. God doesn't deliver to I don't see how circle. I love that. And anyway, so stay on Faith Street as much as you can, because it's about like trusting and being like expectant but patient. And yeah, but like if it doesn't happen, know that you're going to be okay too. These are like your dreams coming true. But also it could be that, you know, God had something even better in store for you, or that, you know, if you got the exact thing that you asked for, it might not be on your highest timeline. So maybe it's something like that. Like I have the intention that I am always supported and guided on my highest timeline, receiving my guidance loud and clear. So if something is not for me, I don't want it. If it's not on my highest timeline, I don't want it. So even if it's something that I ask for. So keep that in mind and follow that process. Also it's like stretching a muscle, like faith. You know, faith is stretching a muscle, or faith is a muscle that you can stretch and grow. And start with small things like parking spots and, you know, manifesting like little things. You know, I always like the restroom thing. I always have I always have a clean and stocked restroom whenever I need one. And parking spots. And, you know, you'll start to exercise your faith. You'll be like, dang, I'm good at this. And you'll start to realize your own power as a creator. Always gratitude. I think I don't know where that step fits in, maybe step 6, but always gratitude. Sprinkle it all throughout your whole manifestation process. Daily gratitude every day is the most powerful thing that you can do to change your life. And I also highly, highly recommend meditation for everyone, but especially if you think you can't do it, you probably need to do it. So let me know if there's any way that I can support you. Again, I am a spiritual intuitive coach. My name is Kim Ocean. I am at kim.ocean with 2 N's on Instagram. And I also have my podcast, Awakening 101, on Spotify. And our Instagram is Awakening 101 Podcast. What else? Yeah, let me know how I can support you. I love you guys. Thanks for watching. And I will see you all very soon. I hope you have a magical, magical day and week, and that all of your dreams come true. Mwah! Love you, love you. Bye.